And we are live.
We're live now?
Oh, we're live now.
That is amazing. Good news.
We're live to discuss the undead. Too cheesy?
No, I think it works perfectly.
Cool. Well, then we're live to discuss the undead.
And we're totally alive. That's true. We're not undead.
We're not.
No.
No.
I've never sucked blood,
What?
not even one time.
We are just waiting for our co-host Daniel to join in. Thank you everybody for joining us on this book club of the month to discuss these Savage Shores. These ones right here. Let's wave at all these people here. Curtis, do you want to give a rundown on book club and what it is?
I sure do. Thanks for asking. Hey, welcome to the Book of the Month Club Online. October is a really, really scary month, you guys. And so for this month's selection, we wanted to pick one of our favorite scary books, These Savage Shores. These Savage Shores. It's a real mouthful. This is written by Ram V, or Ram V, art by Sumit Kumar, Vittorio Astone, and lettered by Aditya Badikar, and apologies for butchering everyone's names. This is published by Vault Comics, no affiliation with Vault of Midnight, other than we all love comics.
Yeah.
I am Curtis Sullivan. I'm going to be the question asker today. I'm also a big Conan enthusiast. I'm joined with
Daniel Mintavar from the Vault of GR. So, root and tootin' gamer of the West.
as he's known.
And I am Caleb Wimbrow. Also work here at the Ann Arbor store. You may recognize me from Vault of Knowledge, the trivia host, and I am the resident party planner here, in charge of all events over here at Vault of Midnight. So, let's party.
Let's do it. Hey, let's talk about this book. So every month we pick a comic book, a graphic novel, which is, you know, a big comic book, really, and we talk about it. This month it's These Savage Shores. I'm going to do the pull quote from the back cover just to give you a little bit of the flavor from the creators. Here we go. 2 centuries after the first European ship sailed to the Malabar coast and made landfall at Calicut, the East India Company seeks to secure its future along the lucrative Silk Route. This book is set in the year 1776. An old evil now sails aboard a company ship hoping to make a home in this newfound land, but he will soon find that the ground among the Indus is an ancient one, with daemons and legends far older than himself. Among these savage shores, there are days, I'm going to try that again. Along these savage shores, where the days are scorched and the nights are full of teeth. Scary. And they really are full of teeth.
Yeah.
It's true.
Not always the ones you expect, either.
That's true. They're very, very true. So this book is set in London and India during 1776, during the Anglo-Mysore Wars. So this is a real historical time period. This is the Kingdom of Mysore on one side, and then the British East India Trading Company was actually in a conflict trying to establish this trading route. So it was, this is a fictional story set in a real time and a real place, which really grounds it, and I thought was always a cool way to do a monster story, right? Put it in a real place.
Yeah.
Also, hello, Lyoko37. Thanks for giving us a shout out. Thanks for saying hi. Thank you, everyone, joining us. If anyone's just tuning in, this is Book Club of the month for October, These Savage Shores. We just talked about the setting of the book. What are we doing next? We're talking about those creators?
Yeah, let's talk about who made this book. So comic books are a collaborative effort, right? You've got a writer, you got artists, you got all kinds of talented folks who all come together to make a book. And this one is exceptional in every regard. So, yeah, let's get into it. Ram V is a London-based comic book writer and dog lover. He's written tons of books, some bigger-known stuff like Justice League and Catwoman for DC Comics, but he's also done a lot of creator-owned stuff like These Savage Shores. And next week, he's releasing a new graphic novel, brand new graphic novel called Blue and Green that I'm very, very excited
Very stoked about that.
So, yeah.
I have, while we're talking about Ram V specifically, I noticed a lot of his stuff, the stuff that he does, like artist-owned stuff, not the DC titles. he does a lot of stuff that centers around man versus nature, or human versus nature. In Graffiti's Wall, it's about a young man watching the neighborhood around him sort of be crumbled and razed to the ground for the sake of progress. In Paradiso, it's about man has like overdone it and has reached far beyond their grasp and destroyed the world. And it's a bunch of like old new tech that's like all fossilized at this point, basically. And then These Savage Shores deals with the East India Company trying to colonize this existing culture and try and trade their ideals and history for money, for the ability to make more cash. So it just seems like he's got a lot of stuff that centers around human versus nature, or human versus human, basically. And I just thought that was really interesting looking at it.
Yeah, right. This is my first time reading something by him. And yeah, that sort of theme really comes on through. You can see it sort of like in the first kind of chapters. He definitely sets up that idea of like Western civilization versus sort of the already established Near Eastern civilizations that were there. Sort of that's a nice setting for the conflict. But you can definitely see the nature versus civilization. I think is a civilization can be in air quotes in the entire time for this this book. So
yeah.
Yep. No, for sure. Yeah. Agreed. And it's like the title's really fitting as well, right? Because this place already exists and is a civilization, but because it's unknown to Western civilization, it's savage in this unknown thing, right? Where in fact it has a rich culture that's existed for a really long time.
I actually, excuse me, but I liked to think of it after I read the whole thing, thinking back. I think the Savage Shores might be the London Shores, because that's where the real monsters are coming from. That's where the vampires are coming from. That's where the sort of industrialization is coming from. And then it's only when Bishan goes to London to meet with Count Grano that the real, like, intense bloodshed happens.
All right, well, let's hold that thought.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. We're going to get into all that. No, let's we'll rip through the rest of these creators really quick, and then we'll dive right into the book. So the artist on this book is, and again, apologies in advance for all the damage I'm doing to everyone's names. I think it's Sumit Kumar, or Sumit Kumar, is a freelance artist from New Delhi, India, and they've worked on many books for DC Comics, big name stuff, Batman, Flash, Detective Comics. They have a ton of their work up on artstation.com. Very gorgeous stuff. Check out this artist, Sumit Kumar, on artstation.com. You won't be sad. They've got, tons and tons of stuff. And, check it out. On colors on this book is Vittorio Astone.
Oh, the colors on this book. If you haven't had a chance to pick it up, just a quick little flip through on some of this artwork is just astounding. Some of these panels, when it goes from day to night next to each other, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
absolutely true. Yeah, coloring really adds another great layer. This artist has colored tons of stuff. Worked for Heavy Metal Magazine. Did a book called Heist, also I think with Vault Comics. They also have a ton of work on artstation.com. That's really, really worth a look. So check them out. And then finally, Aditya Badikar, I hope is even close, is a comics letterer, also out of India. Their work includes Afterlift, which is a book that was digital only for a while. It's Chip Zdarsky. That's finally coming to print from, I think, Image Comics. I'm super, super excited for that. They also worked on The White Trees, Little Bird, and Bloodborne. All really, really nice comic books. And letterers sometimes don't get as much mention as they should. I think the letterer on this book, and we'll talk about it, is putting in work and just adds so much to the whole package here. So
is quite literally a letterer in this one because of all of the letters being written.
Yep.
Not just ABC, but like to from letters.
No, it's good stuff, and we'll talk about it at length in the next portion. But before we do that, we want to say, hey, we're gonna this is the obligatory spoiler alert moment. We're going to talk about this book. We're going to talk about details. We're going to spoil everything. We're going to really get into it. So if that's okay with you, here we go. If not, pause the video and go read the book and then come back and watch us later. Because, yeah, we're going to dive right in.
We're really going to sink our teeth into some of these plot points. Sorry. I'm not sorry. Those will keep happening.
All right, hey, let's get into it, you guys. I'll ask you guys some questions, and we'll just go. We'll just do it.
And as we're jumping into this, you guys feel free to put in your own questions in the comments, throw in your own answers, how you felt about some of these things. This is very much a dialogue. We're trying to have a conversation about the book and with you guys about the book. So feel free to jump in with any questions you have or any comments you've got on any of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you read the book and want to share, we want to hear what you got to say. So awesome. Hey, here's the first question right here. Easy one. What did you like best about this comic? Daniel, let's start with you.
Ooh, I think I liked, well, first of all, the setting. The setting was immediately something that jumped out to me. Having a non-Western comic book was fantastic. I think having a non-Western horror book, another plus to it. Yeah, I think the setting was definitely the first thing that I liked about it. I was a bit timid on the first issue, especially those first couple of pages. I was like, oh, another vampire story. Like, I'm kind of all right with this. And then we got to go somewhere else. And I think, yeah, I think that's pretty much one of the first things that hit me, hooked me, and I think continued and kept me in the story for sure.
Awesome. Caleb, what about you?
A lot of the same things that Daniel said. One of the big things that struck me about this book is how different it is from vampire stories. There are so many stories out there with rich, aristocratic, white British men who are vampires, and the whole thing takes place around them. So I think it's really cool that this book introduces that and then immediately says, but that's not what this story is about. This story is about an entirely different conflict as opposed to just vampires against humans. There is a cool vampire hunter scene. There is a cool, like, oh yeah, blah, 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 it's Van Helsing again. But they cut that immediately. Within the first couple pages, they are on a ship moving to a whole other continent, and then you get to see the Rakshas,
Yeah, I think.
Yes, the Rakshas. You get to see the Rakshas, which is an entirely different interpretation of vampires or werewolves, maybe just sort of a immortal changeling beast. I was doing some research on the origins of the Rakshas and Rakshasas and Rakshasi, and it seems as though a lot of the modern day vampire lore came from this, because the creature is often depicted as drinking blood from a skull or from the palm of his hands to like revitalize itself. And that eventually trickled down and encouraged and inspired a bunch of other stories that became the prim, proper, garlic-fearing vampire that we know today. So it was cool to see the sort of like origin and how it wasn't pretty and delicate. It was raw and real and was like just very intense, very different than a lot of the other vampire or werewolf stories you see.
Right.
Yeah, and I like how long it took for us to see the beast. You don't see this creature until I counted like 50 pages in. Then you finally get to see what this creature looks like, and it is intense.
Yeah, they really hold that reveal for maximum payoff. Yeah.
You don't even see Bishan's face until 41 pages in. Other than that, it's all covered in shadow. It's all kind of in the background. Then you get a full face like 5 or 6 pages before you see this beast that he really is.
And we should say, yeah, Bishan is one of the main characters in this book. He's sort of like the right hand of this young princeling. It's sort of his bodyguard in essence, or almost caretaker.
But then it's also kind of revealed that he's actually like the true king because he's this immortal creature. He's like a Jafar, but if Jafar was a good guy.
Right.
Where he's like always helping the king, and whoever's in charge, he's always advising because he has this immortal experience. and is such a deadly creature that chooses not to be a super deadly creature. I think it's a great representation of power and the choice to not rule and let somebody else and just give them your wisdom. Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
really good point.
John, he is the mask on the cover. That's what he covers his human-esque face with. And then you finally see it revealed, and it's really just kind of some red glowing eyes. But it's described in the book as this face is like the face of evil. And now that one of the lines that, who is it? Zachariah says. Zachariah is like the Van Helsing character. He's the vampire hunter. He even says at some point, like, now that I've seen what's under that mask, I'm even more frightened than before I knew, or something like that. It's super cool. The way they play with not showing things and leaving it to the imagination. Yeah.
Right on. Awesome. So, yeah, for me, one of my favorite things about this book, like we were saying just a minute ago, was the letterer.
Yeah.
So in comic book, you get these little boxes where you get these sort of info dumps. It's a really standard way to tell comic book stories, right? You'll have the dialogue, the character speaking, but then you'll have, a box in the corner of a panel that'll say something, like in a city where these things happen. Crime is at an all-time high.
The exposition dump. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Which, these that's your helps move things along, In this book, it's people writing letters to one another, like actual letters. And depending on the character that's writing the letter, it has a totally different tone. So that speaks to the writer being able to capture all these different unique voices of the characters, which is really cool. But the font and the style of writing is totally different.
Yeah.
The handwriting is different. So we have multiple unique handwritten fonts in this book that are unique to the different characters, and so that's amazing on its own. But it also serves as that corner box that you would normally see in a comic book. And I think it's just so kick-ass, and it's used to like really good effect. I don't know if I've ever seen it done in a comic book to this degree and this effectively. I think it's extremely impressive from like a making comic books standpoint. So.
It's also kind of a callback to like Dracula, right? Because both Dracula was written in an epistolary manner, and this was kind of done in the same way, right? Like Dracula was written a bunch of letters, and here we are getting more letters done. So it's kind of like ties in.
I didn't even make that connection.
Vampire thing we're doing. So yeah.
And Aditya did such a good job at the distinct handwritings, and Ram did such a good job with the voices. You never need to see said Prince Vikram. It's always, you read one line and you know instantly who is talking to whom and what the context is. It's just so well done.
Yeah, they don't do that thing in comics where they people don't address each other by their names all the time. Like, Batman, go over here and do this thing. Okay, Robin, I will do that thing. Good, Batman. You know, like, you just know by, they've used different, it's visual cues or tonality, right? Or how the characters speak to, like, identify them as opposed to, being named. Like, you don't hear the name of the vampire hunter until way into the book. You don't know he's Zachariah until, I mean, maybe four issues in or something.
Like, I think it's when Count Grano gets to the shores of India and says, find me Zachariah Stern. And then you go, oh, who's that? Oh, it's cut to him waking up drunken one morning, drinking more and writing a letter to his brother, brother or friend or something. Yeah.
It feels really natural. No, it's used to good effect. Cool. And, just to rewind a little bit and make sure that we've kind of told folks what this story is really, really about. It's, it's like, Caleb, I think you were talking about this a little bit. So it starts off as this aristocrat kind of lordly character who is like, your classic vampire, your classic long, beautiful hair, handsome, wealthy vampire character. And his name is, let me pull it up right here.
Elaine Pierrefonds.
Yeah, Elaine Pierrefonds. And he's being hunted, and they got to get him out of the country, right? So his kind of vampire coven or whatever, they're like, all right, he's compromised us. We're trying to keep this blood sucking on the down low. We got to get this guy out of the country. But he also works for the East India Trading Company. So it's like this double thing. So that's the jump off of the story. Just to recap for everyone. Elaine then Alan travels to India and is hoping to remain incognito, obviously suck a lot of blood and make a lot of money.
We've all been there.
We've all been there.
Yeah,
but the hook and the twist is, like you guys were saying, that first issue, he goes out to do his nightly business and meets with an untimely demise. And this is so cool, you guys, because I think you both touched on this. The way it subverts what we think is going to happen.
Yeah.
You think this is the lead character of this comic book. You're fully through a whole issue of this comic book. You're like, this comic is about this dude. Here we go. Let's follow his story. Wham! He's headed back to camp with his head in his hands, literally.
Yeah.
Right. And it is an amazing end to a great first issue because it just subverts the whole thing. And then the rest of the book really follows this war between the East India Trading Company and this young prince, and them trying to carve that Silk Road right through this through India, right? So and then pepper in monsters. It's such a rad setup, and it really, I think you guys, like I said, we all talked about it a little bit earlier on, just it subverts where we think we're going in a really kick-ass way.
Yeah.
And just, I really dug the setup because it seemed so realistic in that a bunch of rich people had a friend who broke the law, and then they, instead of damning him, instead of stepping away, they went, oh, let's just use our connections to make this problem go away. Let's just brush it under the rug, and then you get this beautiful catharsis of not 5 pages later, seeing that wealthy, privileged person who got away with murder, literally, get their head torn off and put into their lap and walked into camp. Oh, it's so juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you want to end an issue of anything or an episode of anything, with that wham, with that. Here's what you thought was happening.
Yeah.
Welcome to the thing.
Yeah, I got
So
I
cool.
got with that twist, so I enjoyed it. So.
Awesome. Next is we'll just jump right in. So we talked about some of the things we liked the most about this comic. Was there anything that stood out that you didn't like about this comic? Any critique that you had about this book?
The only thing that I could come up with as a critique was something I didn't even really put thought into until I saw the note you had made. So I'm just going to piggyback off yours and let you take the lead on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so for me, and this was, so there's an all-male cast to this comic book, and it's really strong, and I don't want to take away from that too much because I overwhelmingly loved this book. But there's one female character, her name is Corey. She's the only, you see a couple women in the background in this book and stuff without any speaking lines, but the only female character with speaking lines is Corey, and she's sort of the love interest of Bichon, and
she's like a priestess.
She's a priestess, and so she has. It's implied that she has agency and power, but you just don't ever really see that play out.
I agree.
And so she's more of kind of a plot device.
It's more that when she becomes the victim, it motivates the hero.
Exactly.
Which you see way too often.
Yep. So I don't think it was terribly done, but I thought with a creative team this strong and just a book that's this strong, that's a little bit of a missed opportunity there with that character. That was my only kind of quibble on that one. Yeah. Daniel, any thoughts on that?
I would say the main thing that I had wrong was sort of my unfamiliarity with the world. So I kind of kept flipping back and forth, just trying to keep together who was who, sort of on that.
Oh,
first
right.
So I think that was mostly a personal flaw as opposed to flaw in the book. But I think sometimes finding out who a name was both is great to find out, but also oh, that's who that is. Having to work that out. So I would say it's a minor critique, but that's it.
No, I think you're right. It did keep you guessing in that way because it didn't ever want to spell anything out for you. So yeah, I agree with you there. It did take some time to kind of connect everyone's identity. Yep. Which was really nice when you get there, but initially, I feel you. Yeah, that's a good one. Good point.
If I could piggyback off of this question and jump to one that I think we had later in it, but it's the question that we had was, if you could see the story from anyone else's perspective, what would it be? My answer was Corey. I wanted to see, because you get glimpse and pieces of her backstory and her relationship with Bishan, and it was beautiful. Her story that they don't really tell is that she grew up in this village, and there was this immortal entity that was ever present and constantly protecting everybody, who she grew to love and fall in love with. The first page of the whole book is the two of them in each other's arms, her hair cascading over his face, and them just existing in a world together, just the two of them. And it goes on to talk about how she's the only joy that he can feel, but he even knows that that's fleeting because he is immortal. So he's watched so many people die in front of him. But she grows up with this figure, falls in love with him, they are in love together, and then she can't bring herself to say goodbye to him when he leaves for war, because she knows that he's going to become a different thing than the one she loves when he gets there. And then while he's gone, she is attacked. The village is attacked by the vampires, by Count Grano, and she ends up getting turned. She ends up irreparably changing because the one person she put all of her faith and trust into was gone and was fighting another man's war instead of at home protecting the ones he loved. And she has changed forever. She becomes this vampire. She becomes cold. She becomes hard against him. And every time they interact with each other, the relationship is never the same. It's always her sort of commanding him or like telling him to do things, and him like tail between his legs, kind of like, I'm so sorry. But the story that she has is one I would be very interested in seeing in depth.
Agreed. Yeah, we don't see any of that. We know what happens. We see the effect of what happened, but yeah, we don't see any of that.
You just see her victimized.
Exactly. Yep. No, that's a good.
And anybody who's joining us, if you guys have any answers to these questions, things you liked, things you didn't like, if you've read the book, feel free to throw them in the comments. We'll talk about them too. This is as much for you guys as it is for us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and to anybody joining us now, thanks for tuning in. We're talking about These Savage Shores. It's our book of the month. This is the Vault of Midnight Book of the Month Club online. Yeah, every month, except for the next 2 months because of the holiday times. We will not be doing Book of the Month Club because, we'll all be busy and stuff doing holiday stuff. But join us again in January, and then hopefully every month after that for a live Book of the Month discussion and chit-chat and hopefully some silly banter the last Sunday of every single month. So this is our last one of 2020, but yeah, we'll be back at you in 2021. Cool. All right.
What about you guys? Perspective? Other perspectives you'd like to see?
Not necessarily perspectives, but there were some other characters that I'd love to see more of.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a question that we had later on, but we can just jump right into that. I would love to see more about the Rakshas.
Yeah.
And just that whole, I want to learn more about those guys, specifically the character in this book. And I would love to I'd like to see more of the past stories of this kingdom, like the father, and what happened there, because it sounds like they have a very sordid history. So
Bishan, his brother, when he betrayed him to fight for another man's war, they talk about that but never show it. Oh, I wanted that so badly.
The prequel.
Yeah, exactly. I want the prequel.
That said, I really liked how contained this was.
Yeah, true.
That was the other cool thing about this book. Like, you get in, it's cool. You're introduced to like this pretty big world that's pretty established, and they just show you enough where it's really interesting. And then I feel like we got a nice end.
Yeah.
So I also wouldn't be sad if this was boom, one and done either.
Yeah, I thought the pacing was great. I thought like the scope of the book was fantastic. I mean, it even takes place over the course of years, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. I definitely liked what it was. I'm satisfied with the story.
Yeah. It gave a lot, but didn't over deliver anything. It left me wanting more, for sure. But not feeling like a bunch of stuff was unresolved, which I think is a delicate line to skirt.
Because you have questions, but they're fun. They linger in a good way, not in a like you didn't.
Hey, what the heck? Why'd you set that up and not tell me about it?
Exactly.
Yeah. It was more hinting that these people have full lives and histories apart from the story that they're telling right now, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, let's go to the next question that we have here. Boom, 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 boom. I'm scrolling down my notes right now, y'all. Oh, hey, here we go. Do you guys have a favorite quote or a favorite line in this book, or even just like a favorite moment, even if you don't have a quote, like something happened and it really stood out for you? Daniel, we'll jump over to you for this one first.
Yeah, there's a bit in I think like the penultimate issue or the last issue, one of those two, where the prince is being given like a letter, and he's talking about how he's supposed to rule after he's gone, after the king is gone, and it's just so good. It sort of gives the comparison between one of the reasons I enjoy it. Is it gives a good reflection upon what a vampire is. It's not necessarily a vampire is both like a creature, but can also be like an entity, and sort of comparing the East India Company to what these Western vampires are. And I think, it was very powerful and very kind of like, give me a second. I definitely paused in those kind of pages for a bit. Definitely one of my favorite ones.
That was actually the section when I first started to make the connection between the Western vampires representing like mankind's greed, their like never-ending hunger to take and take and take, juxtaposed against the Rakshas, which is also violent and aggressive, but in a protective manner. It's always to guard the ones he loves and to preserve the world, as opposed to the corporations, which are trying to just suck it dry for their own benefit. That was when I first was like, oh, I get it now. And that actually,
I definitely enjoyed that letter. It's kind of like, it really is kind of maybe the thesis of the book, right? It's kind of there. I think it really, really stands out. The East India Company is always kind of in the, if anything, is kind of like the secret monster of the book, right? It's always in the background, causing these things, pushing these forces. Meanwhile, our main characters are sort of being pushed and pulled by this force thousands and thousands of miles away. I thought that was, just fantastic.
Yeah, colonialism is the real vampire.
Yep.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Hey, real quick, the real Jude Law wants to know who the stud is, top left. And by my calculation, that's this guy here.
Whoa.
I don't know if you know who the real Jude Law is, but...
I don't know who that is.
Well, they want to know who you are.
Hi, the real Jude Law, and it's definitely the real Jude Law. Let's all agree to that.
It's the internet. You can't lie.
That's true. Hi, my name's Curtis. Yeah. Thanks, the real Jude Law, you cutie. I love you, babe.
Favorite quote?
Favorite quote. There's a few moments. I mean, there's so many impactful, emotional moments for me. There's like the scene where Ilan has just arrived in India, and he's in his room, and the prince comes to greet him, and it's like this 9-panel page, and it's really kick-ass. I always love 9-panel pages. That's throwing back to like Alan Moore on Watchmen. Just you can do so many neat things with that panel layout. It's framed really well. So from a comic book standpoint, that there's a couple of really kick-ass 9-panel pages. But this one in particular, you see the face of Bishan in shadows, and he's holding his mask and like the red eyes, and it's like you don't know who this character is yet, and so that really, just even saying it out loud, like it is making the hairs on my arm stand up a little bit. It's really powerful because you just want to know who this is, and the art really delivers on like it's giving you that peak, that anticipation, like what's this? What's the face behind the mask? So that was really rad. And then the prince gives a speech to Bishan, not like speech, but he's going off to war, and he commands him to come back. Like his final command is like, because he's all alone, because he doesn't have anybody, he has no family. He's like, and this is really vulnerable moment of this young princeling, this young king, being scared of being alone, and that was really, really kick-ass.
And that's the first time that you see him as a kid.
Yeah,
because the first time you see him in the book, it's him with Bishan as they are like the royal welcome. Hello, Elaine. Thank you for coming. Our palace is at your service. And every time you see him, he's either on a hunt or he is acting in a position of power. So the first time you see him as a little kid who lost his dad is when the only other person he has, Bishan, is leaving. And it shows him with tears in his eyes, welling up but not overflowing, and he just says, I'm asking you, no, I'm commanding you to return. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Good stuff.
God, that was beautiful. That was, you took the words right out of my mouth. It was fantastic. It was all of that,
And there's a couple pages. So Bishan goes to war, and it's really gruesome. He transforms into beast mode. So there's this great action stuff where he's just ripping these, colonial armies to shreds. Like there's some really, really fun, just action-y stuff that happens there. Which this comic, I think, for all it's like the stuff it's trying to say, it also delivers in that way with like those action bits and that stuff you want to see.
Final fight scene?
It's totally kick-ass.
Oh yeah.
But there's a scene that after he does all this damage and he's doing all this fighting where he's like, they imply that he's like forced into like this wolf mode.
Yeah.
And it's like
he's gone too far.
He's gone too far. So for like 2 or 3, maybe it seems like days or even weeks, you don't really know what time is, but he's forced to like consume animals and hunt and live trapped in like this wolf form.
Because he can't escape his violent nature.
Yeah, the monster and the monstrous nature. And I thought that was really powerful stuff too, because he's having like this dialogue while he's trapped in this wolf form that was pretty cool and pretty, I thought emotionally impactful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So lots. There's so many. There's so many. Yeah. Excellent. All right. What else have we got here on our question list? Oh, hey, somebody put on the notes. I'm not sure who put it, this here, but another note for favorite quote was towards the end of the story, Bishan and Corey finally make it to London. They get invited by the Lord Super Vampire to have dinner and have a conversation. There's he asked the question about, so what do you think of Western civilization?
Yes.
Right? I'm not sure. I don't want to steal anybody's quote, but who put this on here?
That was Daniel.
Daniel?
Yeah. Oh, I thought, that was, it was such a good quote because he sets it up. They're all at the dinner table. What do you think of Western civilization? Then there's just a pause on one of these like 9-panel pages, and he's like, I think it would be a noble idea. It's just so good. Such a good critique and retort. Just perfect.
Yeah. No, it's a zanger. I think that's another 9-panel page too, where it just is like the comic's all there, the writing and the art's all there, but then it's that comic construction coming into play too. That's just like making it all work.
Especially since he's the one coming from the savage shores, that he comes to civilization and he goes, yeah, it would be nice if you guys were civilized. That sure would be a good start.
No, and then there's a silent panel of the Count's face where you can tell like the art's so good because the Count's face, he's pissed. Yeah. He doesn't like that answer, but it takes him a minute to process it because he thinks he's so cultured, right? So he waits, and then the next panel, he's like, ha, what a good answer. But you can tell they really grated his cheese.
Oh, it's just great.
That's good stuff.
Dang.
I forgot about that.
That thing is just fantastic. And it's critique, right? It's just so good.
Hey, next question here I got. Hey, have you guys read any other books by these creators? And if not, what's next? Any plans to seek any?
This is my first Ramdi, and absolutely not my last. I read this twice back to back, and then started instantly looking into his other stuff to see what else he's got. I absolutely love everything about this story, so I instantly wanted more Ramdi as much as I can.
Awesome.
I want to cram Ramdi. I don't know. I don't think I like that.
You're going to cram Ram.
There we go. That's better.
Oh, man.
To do a rom-com.
Daniel,
what about you?
This is also the first time I read this book, or read his work, I should say, and definitely repeating. This will not be the last. I'm super excited for that new book, Blue and Green, I believe, right? And just so stoked for more content. Absolutely.
Right
and
on.
Blue and Green is going to be about a musician, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see not a massive monster story, to see how he deals with things differently, but also bringing that same, because he's telling 4 different stories simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's about the corporations trying to take over the land. It's about monsters fighting each other, but it's also about a relationship. It's about father and son relationships between the princes and their fathers. It's about looking hopefully to the past. The most human moments you see in the whole thing are when Bishan is talking to one of the 2 young princes. He is in full beast mode, holding the sultan who betrayed them, about to kill the guy, and this young prince with sword in his hand, ready to attack, just calmly says, "Please don't hurt him." And he looks at the face of this child, and he just lets him go, and he only says, "Be better than him." Then he walks away. And his relationship with the prince, the only reason he agrees to go to war in the first place is because the Sultan says, well, if they beat us, they're coming to you next, and that prince is in danger. How many princes have you seen die in your life? And he goes, enough. I'll help. You'll have your war. And so it's only when these young children who are innocents are threatened that he goes, okay, fine. Then that to me shows a hope for the future, that things can get better, even though he's seen nothing but bloodshed his entire existence. He still has this sensation of things can get better if we do better. I think it's beautiful. So I'm excited to see how Ramvi does other stories that aren't just horror, scary stuff.
I totally wanted to see him kill that Sultan too, because that guy,
right?
That guy. So, you know, to Caleb's point, that young prince is wise beyond his years, and good job. I was like, get him, kill him. Wait, no,
okay,
no,
fine.
do be better. You're absolutely right.
That brings me back to another favorite quote too, because during that scene, I think the Sultan asks him, like, one of us had to become a monster.
Yes.
And I'm just like, dang, like, yeah, you're like, oh, at any time, Bishan had the power to destroy that entire regiment, but chose not to, right?
Yeah.
Because he's trying to preserve that humanity that he'd worked so hard to achieve. And then he says, well, it's your fault because you didn't abandon that humanity sooner. Oh, it's so intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, Ramvi's next book, Blue and Green, we've been talking about a little bit, is out next Wednesday, the 28th of October.
Oh, nice.
And I had a chance to look at a little preview. They sent out like a little 30-page preview. And the art is incredible. It's an artist I'm not familiar with, but it's got this beautiful painted style. And, it's a really sharp looking book. I cannot wait to check that out. And I think, Caleb, you mentioned him earlier, but Paradiso is available in trade paperback from Image Comics. That looks amazing. And then Graffiti's Wall is from Dark Horse, a graphic novel.
They both look really cool.
They look cool. All 3 of those are immediately going on my to-read list after reading this. I mean, this is a very impressive piece of work. From everybody involved. I mean, Ramvi's writing is there, but this whole creative team is putting in work on this thing. So I'll be looking out for everybody involved. Like, what else are you getting into?
Yeah, so this is definitely going to be one of those branch off books where I read it and then I read something that each artist has done other than this, and that just sort of spider webs out. Yeah.
Hey, let's see what we got here. We've talked about a lot of stuff. Oh, hey, this is a fun one. Did any music come to mind when you guys are reading this book? You're reading this book. Is there a soundtrack that you conjured up? This never happens to me reading comic books, so I'll forgive you if not. But any music thoughts, Daniel?
I had nothing, unfortunately. Nothing really came to mind. I was just enthralled with the book by itself, so I read it in silence and just kind of like had the book sink to me.
Yeah, I actually never read with music on.
Yeah.
But this question made me think about, should I? Should I try that?
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with a movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow. Okay. And it has a super scary electronic soundtrack. And I'm going to try to reread this book to that and see if it works. We'll see. My first thought was like Black Sabbath or like Deep Purple, and go sort of like a 70s kind of, heavy rock vibe. Yeah. I don't know if that will work, but, I thought maybe the juxtaposition of like, 1770s, with 1970s rock and roll, maybe.
Yeah.
So, if anybody watching this stream has any music suggestions to rock while reading these savage shores, please chime in.
Hello, Paloma. She gave us a wave
Hey.
in the comments here. Also, we got from Melanan3, we got good attempt in all caps with a crying laugh face. I think that was at our Ram Cram joke.
I hope so.
I'm not sure. Thank you for at least giving us good attempt. We know it wasn't, so that was kind of you. That was very generous. For me, I didn't think of anything while reading it, but then when I saw this question and thought back on it, it was like a classical piece that starts very like delicate and very beautiful, and then has that like boom 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 like crazy intense drop to it when stuff starts like picking up and going really fast. Yeah, just the way the story plays with such different, when it's cutting back and forth between the vampires and Bishan and Corey, and when they're lovers enthralled with each other, and then vampires doing dirty business deals and stuff. It just there was a lot of like back and forth, and I could see that in like a classical piece that like spikes and then teeters out and then spikes until a massive crescendo.
Yeah, because you will get, like you say, you'll get some quieter moments.
Sorry, Daniel. There actually might be a soundtrack that I would listen to it. And there's he does mostly movie soundtracks, mostly where I remember him from. It's Carter Burwell. He does the soundtrack for Gods and Monsters, and it's just very like elegant but dark, right? There's haunting motifs, and I think that would fit perfectly for the movie adaptation of Savage Shores. I think,
maybe some Hans Zimmer.
Sure.
Because you need some strings, maybe. You need some haunt. Yeah. Because it's scary.
And there's always something lurking under the surface.
Yeah. Agreed. Hey, if you guys got a chance to ask the author or any of the creators of this book one question, I guess it doesn't have to be one question, but what would you ask the creators of this book? What would you like to know about them or the process or this project?
I think I would probably ask sort of what got them started down the path for like these two vampire stories. I think that's what I kind of want to know more about. Why they decided like this was the story they wanted to tell with vampires. So that'd be my question.
What was the genesis?
Yeah.
If you will. But don't listen to Genesis while you read this book.
I think my question would be, where are all the chicks?
Yeah.
But really, like, But really, though, like, why is the only female character just sort of a plot device? And why, why couldn't there be? And it's probably a product of the time that it's set in, but I think Corey had a massive role played in this entire thing in her control of Vishan. She stops him from killing Zachariah when he shoots the bolt at young Prince Vikram. The first time you see him as a Rakshas, he is stopping this arrow, and then he's in full beast mode, and he's about to tear this guy apart until Corey runs out, and she says, "No, stop." And you see, it's like Black Widow and Hulk. You see that she can speak to the human inside, and then he instantly drops, when he sees her in danger, the cougar that they're hunting, or the leopard or whatever that they're hunting, attacks her. And he instead of attacking this monster as the monster he is, he drops instantly to human and goes to check on her if she's okay. And I think the control that she has over him, and that she's the only good, I don't know, I think she could have had a much bigger and more important role in this. And I just ask, maybe why not? You know?
Yeah. No, there's that's a like we talked about earlier. That's the standout thing for me. Was let's have a little more Corey in this comic book.
Melon Ann 3 said why this story and how it came up, which I think speaks to sort of what Daniel was saying, which is what about this story kind of spoke to the artists and made them want to tell this story.
No, because it's right. It's super deliberate, right? I mean, you chose this setting, which is a hugely historic moment in world history. It's definitely, I mean, the underlying theme is colonization 100%, right? And then mixed with vampires. So it's a really unique setting and I don't know if we've said this out loud yet as we're having this discussion, but there's just a billion vampire stories.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many. You throw a dart and you're gonna hit a vampire something, right? So, having said that, this really stands out as something unique as a which you can't always say. A lot of this stuff is we've seen it before. We've been there, done that with vampire stuff. So, how did you arrive at this place? Yeah. Good question.
Thank you, Melinan3. Great contribution. And everybody else watching, feel free to throw in your answers in the comments too.
Yep. Oh, and speaking of, we got about 10 minutes left, you guys. So if you've got questions, comments, lay them on us. Just a few more minutes to go. For me, my question that I would ask is I want to talk to these guys about the creative process, because it feels like you've got 4 superstar talent combining to give us this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to, because without the coloring, this thing falls apart. Without the lettering, it falls apart. Without the art, it doesn't work right. So what's the collaborative process when you really have and this is always my question with like amazing comics like this, where you have a team of 4 really amazing talents. How do you come together?
Yeah.
How do you take a script from the writer and deliver on this art, and then come up with the color, right? Because tonally it has to, that's the mood, that's all of that.
Yeah.
So there's all this deliberate stuff with panel work that's super important. I mean, when stuff comes out of a panel, that's deliberate. When you break that panel.
Speaking of panel work,
yeah.
There's one set of panels, one page that has stuck with me outside of this whole story. And it's because exactly what you're saying. There's one tiny portion that breaks the panel and leads into the panel beneath it, but it causes the whole thing. Here it is. It's when Zachariah burns. Zachariah is hunting a vampire, and he lights him on fire, and the guy runs out a window into the street, but the whole thing is done as a static image, and each panel is the movement happening. So you see the fire drip down, and then you see him run, so it kind of snakes its way around. It's in the first couple pages, but that was when I was like, oh, they're not playing around. They're like using every tool in their utility belt here.
And how does that get communicated, right? What's that creative process? Is that something that comes from the script?
Yeah.
Is that Ron V saying, hey, we're going to do this page like this, and I want some 9 panels like this? Or is that the artist saying that? So there's so much stuff. And then on this book, everybody's doing so much heavy lifting. Like the letterer, like we talked about earlier, like without the letterer doing what they do, I think we're in a different book again. So man, it'd be just really cool to kind of sit in a room and listen to these 4 artists talk about kind of how they all came together to create this one super cohesive thing. I mean, it's super
very
impressive.
tight book for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I think that's something I would have liked, is just in the back as an extra, like a panel script of the first issue or something. Just to kind of see what that layout is. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love some concept art. I would love some script work. Yeah, just to see this process. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've only seen a few comic scripts in my life, but some are super sparse.
Yeah.
And the artist is doing like all the character design, and they're doing all this, and then you see these super dense scripts where it's like, they're like framing it like a movie, opening shot, 3/4 view,
There's a pocket watch on the counter that says 326.
Just telling you everything, right? So what's the
where did this fall, right?
Yep. Cool. All right, hey, here's a nice fun one. Which places in this book would you like to visit? There's so many amazing locales presented in these Savage stores, and hopefully in real life there won't be any blood-sucking freaks to ruin your good time. Was there anywhere that you'd like to visit, Daniel?
I think I'd like to visit London, the English part. That's Savage Shore.
That's Savage Shore.
Right?
Yeah, that's Savage Shore. I think I would like to visit that place.
Right on.
I think out of every place that we saw in the book. What's that?
Oh, I love that. Speaking of London, I like that contrast between the start of the book when they get to India. Very colorful, very lively. There's things going on. People are moving. People are bustling. As opposed to when they arrive in London, the the coloring on the grading scale is just like
Yeah.
so different, so dead.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites.
It's all cold grays and blues.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about that.
That was such a cool juxtaposition, right, between the beginning and the
Yeah.
end. But still, I would visit that haunted land of London. So there I go.
I have a specific time in the book that I'd like to visit this specific place. But it's the tree, the 500-year-old tree that is sort of representative of Bishan and Corey's relationship. It's the first place they're shown in the story. They're always underneath it. He talks about how it's dying, but it's kind of beautiful because it's been around for so long that you can't even see the trunk of it because its roots have grown up and around. And like this tree has lived this long, beautiful life, and it's time for it to go. So like the bats are housing themselves in it because they can sense the death of it. And Corey goes, "Oh, that's so sad." He goes, "Well, yeah, but it's also beautiful. It's served its purpose. It's coming to an end now." And just like the energy that tree has, it eventually, when Bishan turns into the Rakshas in the battle and loses himself in the wolf, the tree gets struck by lightning. And she's there to see it. And the next time you see the tree, it's him returning from war, looking for her. He goes to the place that is their place, and she steps out from behind it. And his face, the pain that you see as he's looking at her, and he realizes he wasn't there to save her, and she's been turned into this vampire and is this cold, broken thing that he couldn't save. Just all the stuff around that tree. It seems like such a powerful place. I would love to be able to be there.
Yeah.
Before it's struck by lightning.
Sure,
Which was my specific. Yeah.
Cool.
Curtis?
For me, I would love to go to India just because I base any traveling I do on food.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair.
I just want to eat a lot of food wherever I go. India has great cuisine. So yes, and all the other beautiful reasons, the people and the vistas and everything else. But mainly the food.
It's basically the food.
Yeah. No, if I'm traveling anywhere, it's like, all right, what are we eating? Literally every meal, every day. Yeah. So awesome. All right, hey, we got just a few minutes left, so we'll just kind of like pick and choose from our last handful of.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, we're rookies. We didn't realize that we only had an hour, a hard and fast hour limit. So we're back just for 2 seconds to resume and finish up, and hopefully our good buddy Daniel's going to join us any second now.
Okay.
And
Daniel.
nice.
All right.
Hey, you're back. Something to catch up there. We have an hour time limit apparently that we all just learned about. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, you were saying we were talking about how'd your opinion of this book change as you were reading this book?
Yeah, just thought it was a good change from run-of-the-mill vampire story to something much better. I think it gave us a perspective in horror stories that I don't usually, just essentially a non-Western perspective on a horror story. I think that was fantastic. I loved the world we got to visit. I think in comparison to sort of run-of-the-mill vampire story that you might hear, I enjoyed it.
Dig it.
Yeah, I think my opinion of it widened the more I read. I went into it thinking, oh, it's a vampire story. I probably know what's going to happen. Then the first couple pages, the main vampire's dead. Right then, my whole perspective switches, and I go, okay, so maybe it's about these other people. And then as we're going and as we're learning more, like Daniel had mentioned earlier, once they're discussing sort of when Prince Vikram is discussing the other vampires, and it sort of starts to show itself as also a commentary on colonization and overtaking civilizations that already exist and sacrificing the history for the money and the stories for the greed and the power.
Unchecked greed.
Unchecked, yeah. So the more I read, the sort of bigger the scope of this whole thing got, without ever going over itself. But I think it really grew as I was reading it, and I grew with it.
Right on. Yeah, this just all reminded me in a big way that I think there's a lot of good stories to be told in well-worn areas. And I think that's a really cool way for writers and artists to just subvert your expectations. I think it's so much fun to think you know what you're getting into, because like we've all been saying, we've read a million vampire stories. I immediately just put all this stuff onto this book. And you know that the creators want you to do that. The lead character is beautiful with the hair, and it's your classic interview with a vampire type situation. So we all know where we're going, and they know they're doing that to you, and then they and they do it a couple of times throughout the book, where they're like, oh, you think you know where we're going because we're tricking you, wham, and here I just love that. And I think it's a smart choice. Trick people with things they think they know, and then just do a 180 on them. So
subvert those expectations.
We do have one question in the comments here. Ian Youngs asked if we'll be expecting more because it was such a great read. We agree with you. It absolutely was an incredible read. I don't believe there's more planned. This is like a contained story, right? Yeah, I've seen like some listings online will call it Volume 1. Okay. But I've heard nothing, and I don't think there will be any more. More from Ram V. Ram V, the author, does have a book coming out. We had mentioned it's on the 28th. The 28th? 28th, Blue and Green coming out. So there is more from these creators, but as of right now, there's nothing slated to continue this. So you'll just have to read it over and over again and take a little more each time you do, unfortunately. Cool. Hey, well, that's our show, you guys. Yeah, we did it. We're going to check out, but as always, this is our Book of the Month Club online. We do it the last Sunday of every single month. We are done for 2020, though, so there's going to be no Book of the Month Club online in November and December, but we'll be back at you in January of 2021. And please, if you haven't read it already, we haven't, even though we've ruined it completely and spoiled it like crazy. If you haven't read it, it's still worth a read. You'll still get a lot out of this book. Pick it up. We offer it at a discount. Our Book of the Months are always 15% off at Vault of Midnight. Quick sales pitch. You can get it on Vaultofmidnight.shop, which is our web store, and have it shipped right to your wherever, your cave, your castle, wherever your abode may be, your ship. Yeah, we'll do. We'll ship to your ship. Hey. Thanks everybody for joining us. Caleb, thanks for being a co-host. Daniel, thanks for doing what you do, being an awesome dude.
Thanks for having me.
Anything else before we head out, y'all? Just one more thing here from Ian Young, real quick to end us off, saying that an idea for continuing this series, he could see it as a dive into the history of other nations at the same time with different monster stories, sort of fleshing those out, so you're filling the world with these different interpretations of monsters. I think that's a really cool idea. Love it. Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, rock solid. Kind of like connected in that way, but not necessarily a direct continuation. Exactly. I think it's an awesome idea. Ian, get to writing. We'll be the next in line to read it. That's right. Right on. All right. Thank you guys all for coming out. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Happy reading. End. Off. And then end. There it is.